Good evening and welcome. Well, rather, it's good afternoon. It's a Saturday afternoon, yes. And welcome to our Saturday Sports Special, a special program today as we pay tribute to former sports administrator, Mr. Johnson St. Louis, who passed away on Monday in St. George's, Grenada. So our program today will pay special tribute to Mr. Johnson St. Louis, the former president of the Boxing Association of Grenada, formerly the Grenada Amateur Boxing Association. Johnson has been a long-standing member of the Boxing Fraternity in Grenada, and no doubt suddenly passed away on Monday of this week. And our friends in the Boxing Fraternity will be paying tribute to Mr. Johnson St. Louis. And, Johnson has been a haywire in boxing in Grenada for many years. I recall my involvement in boxing when Johnson was part of the Boxing Association. The likes of Mr. Emmanuel Roberts and Rav James and others, they are all part of the boxing fraternity. And Johnson, no doubt, was all about boxing. Recall his the usual phrase when he comes to give an update as to in terms of boxing tournaments in Grenada, OECS tournaments sometime, and he will say whether it's the Tantine Netball Complex or the Trade Center, he will always talk about will be transformed into a makeshift Caesar's Palace. That was Johnson St. Louis. And during the next 2 hours, we'll be having those members of the current administration, that's the Boxing Association of Grenada, as well as boxers themselves, former boxers. They will be speaking about the life of Mr. St. Louis, who no doubt gave boxing, a fillip, I would say, in terms of, the tournaments, the training, the participation, whether the boxers are in, getting ready to participate in tournaments. Johnson will be in the media speaking about that. He will also be on the airport to see them off. He will be on the airport for when they return. That was the person in terms of Johnson St. Louis. For those who don't know, this is Johnson St. Louis, and he lost a good friend and buddy, and a die-hard, not just boxing, I should say, but sports in particular. I recall when Kirani James won the, gold medal at the Olympic Games. Johnson was one of the first persons to reach out to me. In fact, I was in London at the time when Kirani won, and Johnson reached out to provide his own congratulations, and even on behalf of apart from him, as Johnson St. Louis as an individual, also on behalf of the Boxing Association. One thing about Johnson is that he likes the whole idea of solidarity, so that when something good in another sporting discipline, as the Boxing Association, he will reach out and offer commendations, offer congratulations on behalf of the Boxing Association. That is the kind of person as Johnson St. Louis, the late president of the Boxing Association of Grenada. So we will be having those folks who will be coming in shortly to provide the tribute on behalf of Johnson St. Louis, and some of them would have worked with Johnson in no doubt in the boxing fraternity, whether as a boxer, whether as an administrator, whether as an official, and even as an administrator, Johnson will be ringside at times. I remember at Boxermania, you'll see Johnson ringside. I will be in Grenada, and Johnson will ensure that if there's boxing, he will let me know that boxing is taking place, and I should be there. And he has his catchphrase, as we'll say, and he always, always, try to get the public involved, and even if for some there's no excitement, Johnson will be creating that sort of excitement, you know and he will be missed, and no doubt we will hear from quite a few of those folks who will be sharing their tribute. I think it's Vincent Roberts Vincent Roberts, who also has been involved. He has been involved in boxing for quite some time, as an official, administrator. As I welcome Vincent to our program, and to pay tribute to the late Johnson St. Louis. Vincent, yes. So good afternoon to you, Vincent.
Good afternoon, Mike, and it's a pleasure seeing you. I mean, it's almost like if you're next door. And although the occasion is not the most pleasant, it is indeed, a good opportunity to thank you for doing this tribute to Johnson. Now, the Boxing Association really is in mourning, we have to say, despite the fact that we look at Johnson and the pleasant person he was, always confident, always optimistic, always smiling. And it was really a privilege working with him and enjoying the good times with him. He has left a lasting memory with all of the people associated with sports, not just boxing. And we are really happy for his contribution, and we extend our condolences to his family, his relatives, his friends, the association, and the sporting, as a matter of fact, to everyone in Grenada.
And Vincent, no doubt, as I indicated in the intro, Johnson was one who had boxing at heart, as you will say, even though he wasn't boxing, but as an administrator, and as indicated, whether the boxers are preparing to depart, whether the boxers are returning, Johnson will be one of those who will be there. And, he has given quite a lot to the sport of boxing.
Yes, one of the contributions which Johnson made to boxing, which quite a lot of people are not aware of, is that although he was not a coach or involved in the technical aspect of boxing, Johnson did quite a lot of research, for example, on how to reach your weight. Because sometimes, a welterweight boxer may be at his 147 and go a bit over, and it's fight day. And Johnson was able to find innovative ways and from his research on how to assist. So he assisted everyone, sometimes with technical stuff. He motivated the boxers, sometimes when they were called upon by the coach to run to the top of Granite and come back. Johnson didn't do it, but he really motivated the guys to do it. In terms of administration, I mean, he was a whiz in his ability to speak to people, to get assistance, sometimes something as simple as having a doctor available. If we didn't travel with our own doctor or so, and Johnson would, in no time, organize and have another team's doctor assigned to the Grenada team, so that when we are called upon and we have to have our doctor ringside, we had someone there. I mean, he was incredible. And his ability, his multilingual skill, because Johnson spoke Spanish fluently, he spoke decent French, and he dabbled in a lot of other languages and was able to communicate. And this was an asset to the boxers whenever they traveled.
I like how you said that he dabbled, because and he he had this thing about him, this fun way about him too, as you say, especially with the language, when he's around folks who speak the Spanish, he engages them in the Spanish, and he was, I know, fun to be around, because I can't recall during my time with knowing Johnson and being around Johnson, I saw him probably upset. Even if he probably has some strange way of showing that he's probably not upset, very, meticulous sometimes, in how he does things, and he will take his time. I mean, even by him speaking, you realize that, he wants to be as correct as possible, as you will say, But I agree that in terms of his ability linguistically, he was on par.
Right. Now, with regard to you said being angry. Now, I've seen Johnson express disappointment. I've seen him express frustration. I have never seen him angry. I've seen him, tired. I've seen him in every mood. I've never seen Johnson expressing anger. I'm sure he felt angry at times internally, but he did not express it the way most of us. I mean, everybody know when I get angry, I get angry. Not Johnson. Johnson would be angry and he would still not express it, He would control. He had the ability to control his anger, and he smiled so very. And look, my daughters, we've known Johnson, my family. Emmanuel, my brother, was involved in boxing. As a matter of fact, I introduced him to boxing. Johnson and I became involved in boxing sometime during the Revolution. Johnson was at the Fisheries School. He was in True Blue, where Bananas, the nightclub, is located at present. And my brother Emmanuel was the principal of the Fisheries School. And that's where I first met Johnson, just around the period of 1980 or 81. And he built a close friendship with our family. And this was extended later on to his brother John. Now, my kids grew up knowing Johnson, and they all say the same thing. This guy was so pleasant. He was a joy to be around. And even in his last period, Johnson came home and he was still jovial and, laughing and carrying on. And being in touch, he was on his hospital bed. And when you're asking him, how are you doing? And Johnson is still positive. I mean, if you see his last messages via WhatsApp, is still to the very end positive, confident, smiling. When he was in the hospital talking about the beautiful view that he's seeing, I mean, that guy is incredible in terms of how positive he was in his approach to life.
Okay, then. Finally, how would you want us to remember Johnson St. Louis?
I would say that Johnson was a patriot who loved his country, he loved his sport, and he loved people. He was dedicated to whatever he did, to his fishing, his professional job. He was dedicated to his love for languages, which he was able to master, and to the sport which he loved, boxing. Johnson was a patriot, and if we can emulate his attitude, his dedication to duty, and his pleasant personality, then we would all be better people for it.
Yeah. Well said. I love the whole idea of being a patriot, as he was indeed, and not just a patriot in terms of sports. He was a patriot in terms to Grenada, because he was all about Grenada. I want to thank you, Vincent Roberts, for your tribute to the late Johnson St. Louis.
Thanks for the opportunity, Mike, and all the best to you and yours.
Okay. All right, then. Thank you very much. Bye. So there it was. We had Vincent Roberts, who worked along with Johnson St. Louis. Vincent himself was an official, ringside official, as a referee, judge, name it, he was there. Let's go on to another official from the boxing fraternity, Stephen Benjamin, who a former boxer and is now a coach. And Stephen Benjamin is speaking to us from somewhere in Grenada. It appears to be sunny Grenada. Good afternoon to you, Stephen.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon to everybody. Yeah, well, it's just sad to know the basically passed now. Johnson had been in the hospital, visited him a couple of times, and he been supporting us basically within River Road Gym, the pure boxing gym that we created in River Road. And Johnson, I traveled with Johnson a couple of times to basically Guadeloupe, Martinique, and these places, and we share basically good times. And Johnson had really stepped up in the boxing as a secretary after Tamer had passed away, right? After Tamer had passed away. And then he had been in the boxing with us. And yep, but it's just sad to know that he's passing at the point in time. But he has been contributing a lot to us into the boxing. Yep.
How do you think boxers, former boxers, as yourself, should remember the man Johnson St. Louis?
Well, Robert put everything in place. A quiet person, nothing at all get him upset. He has been just humble, and that's just Johnson. Even if you have a pain, you'll never know. You just take it with a smile. You'll go in the fisheries and visit him. You'll tell him. If even some of the boxers get hurt and things like that after coming back from fights, and you go and ask Johnson for $100 of go to the doctor, Johnson is there for them. He's just this kind of humble person, humble human. Yeah.
And as you say that boxers in Grenada no doubt would lose a good friend in Johnson St. Louis. You yourself would have been a boxer at the time, as you said, when Johnson was involved in the Boxing Association. Up until his death, he has still been involved directly somewhere or the other, as Vincent indicated, and it appears that boxing has always been at the heart or the core of the man Johnson St. Louis.
Yep. It's only the last week before he passed away, he just stopped sending me message after he's not in the hospital anymore. But basically every day, how things go and how is this? We order a new ring. He had all information. I sent Bonnie picture, I sent Tad picture, all the Olympian from '84. There was somebody writing a book and stuff. He want all this information. I gathered Tad photos, Collins, all Gat Felix, all these people. And to the last 2 weeks before he gone, he want me to get all this information for him. And I was getting all the information, but yep, it's just sad. What can you do?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much, Stephen.
Yeah.
And all the best. And
yeah.
Glad to know that the your gym is picking up. And,
yeah. I'm retired now, so I am based in River Road now in the gym. So I'll be working hard with all the boxers. So yep.
Yeah, and I think that is something Johnson will want to ensure that at least that you continue that legacy, right?
Definitely.
Okay then. Thank you very much.
All right, cheers. Yeah,
okay,
you're welcome.
Okay, so that's we had there let me see. Yeah. Right. So that was Stephen Benjamin, and former boxer himself, and no doubt giving us some information regarding his close association with the man Johnson St. Louis. Well, Roger Duncan is saying Johnson was a beacon, once committed, he gave it all, a true son of the soil, and his legacy must live on. No doubt someone who will probably add to that legacy must live on is Davis Adams. Yeah. Let me make sure I get Davis right. Davis is on. So glad to see you, Davis Adams, and welcome. And no doubt yourself, a former boxer, coach, involved in boxing. Tell us how would you want to remember Johnson St. Louis?
Well, good afternoon, Michael. And I'm really happy that you have opened this platform for us to show our appreciation to our fallen comrade, our fallen soldier, Johnson St. Louis. He's really been one of the soldiers that we have had in Grenada, committed, passionate, and as Vincent would have said, he actually is a true patriot of Grenada, not just in his official capacity as a public servant, but also someone who has given to the community through sports.
Mm-hmm. And like Vincent, like Stephen, the news of his passing, even though we knew of his peril, obviously would have shocked the boxing fraternity.
Well, yes, Michael, you always hope for the best. I mean, you trust God, you pray and you ask him to have his way, and you're hoping for the best as human beings. But as in everything, God has the final say, and we know that he's in a better place because he has accepted Christ as his Lord and personal Savior. That's what I'm sure about. So from my end, in terms of remembering Johnson, I remember him as someone who was devoted to what he was doing. And if it's one group of people who benefited from his devotion, was the Boxing Association and boxing. His service to the Boxing Association, his commitment to the Boxing Association could not be questioned at all, because you could see it in his everyday action. It is one thing to say something and another thing to live it out, and Johnson was able to live it out. As Stephen would have said, he had a very good heart. You couldn't go to Johnson and not leave there feeling that someone took up your cause. He really had a heart for human beings. Another aspect of him that I have come to and that I've enjoyed over the years that we've been together is the fact he's always optimistic, Michael. One who always felt that things will happen, something positive will come out. So when you go to him, he'll take a pause and then he'll say, yes, 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 we could do this, we could do that. That's who Johnson really is, an optimistic person. And of course, I'm sure you know that Johnson loved memories. So himself and the camera were really good friends, always taking photos, always trying to have memories of what would have happened. And in so doing, always making connections not to benefit him, but to benefit the Boxing Association of Grenada and boxing. So he's always having connections. I can assure you, I believe Johnson probably has the most contacts on a phone for an individual, all because of connections and trying to use them for positive end. And he was just a good person, you know, just a good person to be around. So I can tell you that I will miss him. Many people will miss him, and his service will not be forgotten at all.
Yeah. Well, you know, I agree with you with the yes, 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 yes. You know, that was
yes, 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 yes.
yeah, that
yes,
was
yes.
that was a trademark of Johnson. You know, the yes, 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 yes. You know,
and that's a positive
yeah.
aspect of him.
Right. Yeah. Very much so. And he always I know you're from the Sister Isle, and Johnson also ensured that you know, the Sister Isle had its fair share of support in terms of boxing as well.
Correct, is right.
Yeah.
Yeah. If he was a politician, he would win his seat anywhere, whether Carriacou or Grenada. If he was a politician, he was such a person who loved to meet people and loved to involve everybody. So Carriacou was always high on his list. He contact with the Carriacou gym, contact with Sebastian, contact with everyone, even with the fishing in Carriacou. He was always that positive vibe, and he would not leave out Carriacou from anything. And because he knew I was from Carriacou, I think he paid even more attention to me when he got into the association in some ways to see what, you know, positive could come out from the Carriacou connection that he had. So he loved Carriacou, and I'm sure Carriacou folks will miss him quite a lot.
Okay, then. Well, I want to thank you, Davis Adams, former boxer yourself, coach, school principal, you know, everything. Yeah. I want to thank you for your tribute to the man Johnson St. Louis. No doubt he will be missed. Thank you very much.
He will be. Thank you, Michael, for having us. And I'm so proud of that program. You know, something you don't recognize that people will be remembered in certain ways. So I'm really proud that you have done that, and God bless you, Michael.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, then. Right. So that's another one. Well, before we go on to the others who are waiting for us, there are others who are, let's, Johnson, no doubt, will be proud. It has been something he has dreamt of, he has been part of. I recall him being, directly involved. And even when I was directly involved with the media, I know he'll come and call me and, come up to the station to give his insight into what is known as Boxomania. No doubt. As you would have seen, Johnson St. Louis was actually in the far right-hand corner. Yeah. That was Boxmania 2013, I think. Yeah, it was 2013 at the Grenada Trade Center. And it just went into the archives just as we continue to pay tribute to Johnson St. Louis, as we no doubt Johnson will remember those bouts and the times when the public will be yearning for boxing action, and some of the folks who will be coming up next, no doubt, will be sharing some of that with us. But there's a nice tribute in the Grenadian Voice this week that paid tribute to the late Johnson and St. Louis, that says that his involvement in boxing, if I may read, dates back to the late 1970s when he officiated as judge, scorer, and later as a referee. In the last 25 years, he functioned as a leading administrator. He eventually succeeded Ralph James as president and continued until sickness forced him to give up the top position. They said on Facebook, dozens of people, sports people and fans of boxing and other sports describe him as a genuine and passionate lover and promoter of boxing who will be missed. St. Louis managed several Grenada teams to the annual OECS Championships and Caribbean Amateur Championship, and he was highly respected. As president, he was noted for organizing big welcome home VIP treatment for successful boxers upon arrival at the Morris Bishop International Airport. Under St. Louis presidency, Grenada debuted in the World Amateur Championships in Russia in 2018. And throughout his years of service to boxing, he worked dedicatedly with the likes of senior veteran coach Norbert Grant, and he was also successful in establishing in Carriacou and Petite Martinique a boxing gym to develop the sport there. Long-serving treasurer of the Boxing Association, Johnson Dion, described him as a very decent and amicable, honest and highly trustworthy human being. And he quoted as saying that Johnson's passion for the combat sport of boxing was incomparable. He was neck deep into boxing affairs. Johnson was a trusted lieutenant, and he says, I tapped into Johnson St. Louis' circle of friends and business associates to raise funds, unquote. Well, Dion said that Johnson excelled at fundraising initiatives and obtained commendable results. He also described him as incapable of being up. He was incapable of being upset, something we were discussing as Vincent and others were saying. Annoyed or angry, and if he was ever, his countenance never portrayed it outwardly. He possessed a wholesome and harmonious personality. He was at peace with himself. But the sports minister, Yolande Bain Horsford, speaking in Parliament on Tuesday, paid tribute to Johnson, describing his contribution to fisheries and boxing as being most outstanding. She noted his great drive and energy in promoting both his passion and achieving success. She also revealed that it was while on a trip to Iceland on the Department of Fisheries business that he fell sick. He passed away when he succumbed to cancer earlier this week, no doubt, remembering Johnson St. Louis. As I said, good afternoon to another former boxer, now coach. Let us go to Shane Joseph and say good afternoon to Shane. And I know Shane would have taken up a bit with the Boxmania that went recently there, the piece I put there a while ago, because I think Shane was responsible for the boxer in the other corner, if I'm not mistaken. But good afternoon to you, Shane.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Michael, for having this platform for all of us to talk on, on Johnson's passing, and the memory of Johnson. And yes, thank you for showing that old clip. It's definitely entertaining. Heavyweight boxing, anything happens. Yep.
Yeah, and you as a former heavyweight boxer yourself, you'll know about that. But
yeah, oh yeah.
Tell me your association with Johnson and how you would like Johnson to be remembered.
Oh well, I got to really know Johnson. It was a trip to Cuba. We had a camp. The camp was about a month and a couple of days long, and he went with us, because he was able to, he could speak Spanish fluently, and it was me and two other boxers that went, and he was our manager and make sure everything went well with the training camp, and he was very, how should I say, he was like being around all the younger boxers, he was like a father figure, making sure everybody's okay, make sure the meals are okay. There are point in time that our stay wasn't so comfortable. He made sure that, we had proper housing, went out and make sure if we had issues with the food, he still went out and make sure, food was given to us that was more pleasing for us, So he was somebody that went out of his way to do things for you and make sure you're comfortable, especially young boxers who are, traveling for the first time,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I know as someone who, as yourself and your dad, directly involved in boxing, no doubt Johnson will have this sort of direct relationship between yourself and your father and boxing, and especially as the president of when he was president of the Boxing Association. How much you think that Johnson gave towards the development of boxing, and you yourself with the gym and with training of boxers, you probably would have had that direct experience with Johnson.
I mean, boxing was Johnson's life, and even coming to the last days of him being around, I mean, he was still involved, I mean, if he did not, he put up a fight, a lot of persons in his case would have said, you know what, let me leave it to someone else, but he went on fighting, he didn't, it was like he wasn't ill. He was not ill, and he wanted to continue as how things going. He didn't give up, and I guess that was his character. That was his personality. He did not show any form of illness in his personality, regardless how sick he was. I gathered it was stage 4 cancer or whatnot. It was. He didn't show any form of sickness. You're talking to him, and he's like, he's good. And I guess that's how much he loved the sport, and that was his character,
Yeah,
so he gave his life.
Yeah, and they said that was the type of person Johnson was, incapable of being upset, annoyed, or even angry. And even if he was,
never
really showed it.
Never showed it. Never showed it. I mean, with times with boxing, things happen. Everybody's upset. No, not Johnson. He'd be like, yes. He has his his positive way about him. So he has no emotion when it comes to being sad or miserable. Is always positive. Always positive and smiling and jovial.
Yeah. And as they'll say, yes.
Yep, yes. That's his trademark.
That's his thing. Yeah. And how do you think boxers, boxing fraternity should remember the man Johnson St. Louis?
Oh wow! They should remember him as a positive, outgoing guy. Regardless what happens as a boxer, what happens in the sport. You're gonna have your up and down in the sport, and regardless of what happens, you still have to be positive. And And that's the thing I think everybody should remember him as this positive individual who, regardless what happened, regardless what bad circumstances happen, you still stay positive,
Yep. All right. Well, nice to hear from you, Shane. And I assume you are expressing the tributes on behalf of your dad and the rest of the family who have been involved in boxing, supporting boxing over the years.
Yeah, and him being, it's hard to accept his loss. I don't, to me, he's still alive because the last couple of days interacting with him, or from since November, his attitude, his personality, it did not see that he was not well. Talking to him, he was just so positive. And I remember when he came from the trip to, I think it was Iceland, and they did his surgery and stuff. It was like a new Johnson after that. He was positive, even more positive than how he was. So yeah. I still maybe in the next 2 weeks I will probably realize that he's gone. But now to me it's like he's still around. I haven't gotten that shock just because of his personality.
Yep. All right. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for being part of the tribute to the man Johnson St. Louis. No doubt boxers will have some time to to think about his contribution, and somehow the boxing fraternity will find some way of paying tribute to Johnson in a meaningful way that boxers and the boxing fraternity will remember for years to come.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Right. I want to thank you as well. Thank you very much. That's Shane Joseph, a former boxer himself, and now a coach, and some way or the other directly involved with the boxing. And we continue to pay tribute to Johnson St. Louis. Josephine Wilson is saying Johnson was a darling with Bunny as boxer. That she's referring to Bernard Wilson, or Bunny, a brother. I got to know him well, working tirelessly and pleasantly to promote the sport of boxing. He was all round a good person, a solid man. Yes, Josephine, thank you for your tribute to Johnson, and no doubt is the memories of the man Johnson will always be remembered, and he's no stranger to the media, always available to provide updates, to provide insights, kept abreast with what's happening in boxing, locally, regionally, internationally. That was the man Johnson St. Louis. And he, I recall when it was the death of a former boxer, Trevor Thwaites. Johnson was, out of the blocks, sending, tributes on behalf of the Boxing Association. He was among the first, the Boxing Association, to reach out and to pay tribute to the late Trevor Thwaites. That was the sort of person was Johnson, as you see in an old photo there. Back then, I'm still seeing Norbert Grant and Shane Joseph is somewhere in the back there, and some of the other boxers, Sebastian Steele. So they would have been boxers and officials, and there's Johnson. Always, once he can make himself available, he will be there to provide support, and that was him. And he's always, if not available, and he is he will be remembered by, the folks who have been involved in boxing over the years. The names of, as Vincent spoke about, Emmanuel Roberts and Ralph James, and quite a few others who have been involved and would have known Johnson for many years, as he indicated, from probably back in the 70s. He has been involved in boxing. Johnson was trained in Cuba, so he learned the language, the Spanish language, and he also had, as Vincent said, well, I want to use Vincent words, he dabbled, but yes, he spoke a little French, and sometimes, he understood, as he told me, he understood Italian, and well, if someone speaking Portuguese, he can also understand. So he's, very capable in terms of, the languages, linguistic, as we'll say, and he was always that sort of jovial person, Miss Johnson, and no doubt he will be missed. As we understood, he died peacefully on Monday around the afternoon, around 4:30 in the afternoon. He passed away, and Johnson has been involved, as a fishery officer himself, and he also as involved in the sport of boxing, and the boxing fraternity continued to mourn his passing, as we heard from Vincent Roberts earlier. You also heard from Stephen Benjamin, Davis Adams, Shane Joseph. We also have the former presidents, I should say, of the Boxing Association of Grenada, formerly the Grenada Boxing Association. They are preparing to provide tribute to the late Johnson St. Louis. There's also Bernard Bernie Wilson, who's also will pay tribute to him, and we should have some other former boxers themselves who will, provide those tributes to the late Johnson St. Louis, as he was one who, as Dion indicated, he excelled. That was something that was noted. He excelled at the fundraising initiatives, and he was also obtained commendable results, and was one who, as Dion indicated, he learned a lot from Johnson in terms of his contacts, his circles of contacts. He was one who had a lot of contacts, not just in Grenada. He had plenty of contacts. He always someone he can rely on, someone he can make contact with to speak about an issue. And that was the person in Johnson. He's very resourceful too, very, very resourceful, and in terms of information, and in terms of remembering certain things. Johnson, I would say, is the Richie Hughes of boxing. And for those who know Richie Hughes, the tennis coach, Richie has a vast memory when it comes to tennis. He can probably tell you the winners of every Grand Slam from since probably the 70s. He has that recollection. Johnson, I would say, is the Richie Hughes of boxing. He is very knowledgeable. And as Vincent said too, is that even though he was not a boxer, he got deeply involved in the sport in terms of knowing about the laws and a lot of things that related to boxing. And that was the type of person he was. We know of administrators who, for some reason or the other, even though they have not been involved as a player, as they sometimes just concentrate on being an administrator, and sometimes, for some reason or the other, do not know anything about the sport they administrating. Johnson wasn't that sort of person. He got himself involved in terms of knowing about the sport. As you know, he was back then. He was a judge himself back in the 70s. He was also a scorer and also a referee. Then after that he became full-time into administration. But he still kept himself abreast with the laws of the game, the rules of the sport, and that is the sort of person Johnson St. Louis was, and no doubt will be missed. Always with a bright smile and pleasant, personality, and he was one who, if for some reason, wasn't for his illness of being on our program, and out of respect for his illness, I decided that even though I spoke to him about being on the program, I was a bit hesitant in terms of bringing him onto the program due to his illness, even though he thought about it, and he would have without hesitation would have been on the program. In the early days of the program, he was one of the person I spoke to and being on the program. And his usual thing is yes. That's the person. Yes, Johnson. But again, as I'm saying, out of respect for his illness and condition, I decided that I will wait. But so I decided that I will pay tribute to the man Johnson and allow the members of the boxing fraternity to do that in their own, because as we mourn his loss and his passing, and remember the man Johnson, we know through with the restrictions with COVID that there's some limitations in terms of the number of people who can attend and how much you can do, and it's not the type where you'll be able to as previously. So we decided that, hey, why not use this platform to get folks to express their their tributes and use as much time as possible. And even if they remember something, this program is for the man Johnson St. Louis. And if you were there and you said something and you want to come back to say something again, something that you remembered, whatever it is like that, so just let me know, because we have a couple others coming up. We have another hour on the program. We have some others coming up in the flip side. And just let me know that if there's something else you want to add to your tribute to Johnson, and no doubt I will get you back onto the program. And he was one who also, as I think was Vincent gave a very nice introduction, and where he probably summarizes quite a bit in terms of Johnson, because he was also one who advocated for women's involvement in the sport, women's involvement in the sport. And as we saw in that piece there with Boxing, the referee was actually a female. Yeah, it was a female. And they have been part and parcel of the boxing fraternity. The doctor, a female, and up to recent, they had women on the executive of the Boxing Association. So women started getting involved, and it was one of the things I thought boxing, and whether it was Johnson, St. Louis, or Rav James, or others, but one of the things that the Boxing Association you know, embraced. And that whole idea of women's involvement in boxing at the level of administration, at the level of officiating, that's technical aspect, as well as participation, because we had women boxers as well, you know, and it was commendable, although, you know, there were times, obviously, in associations, you have the ups and downs, you know, but it was so good to see that women got involved in boxing, and you know, and they were participating. They had local bouts. They were in the, you know, regional tournaments, and as indicated there, I would like to see more of that. You know, more women getting involved. We had a surge at one point in time of women involvement in the boxing, and I'm hoping that some time in the future, you know, I believe the, you know, post COVID-19 sports administrators should be putting on their thinking cap, and we should be seeing a lot of new things involving boxing, you know, and no doubt we will see how much the, you know, the boxing in particular will get at. So, folks, let's see what's comments again. Yeah. From Michael Noel, sleep well, Uncle Johnson will be missed. No doubt, yes. He will be, Michael, and condolences to you and family. And we want to wish that his memories and his legacy will live on. Okay. I think we have someone else. Elcock, is it? Let me see. I think there's someone who wants to.
Good afternoon.
Yes, Hamian, I wish we can see you. Unfortunately, we are not, you know, somehow. Right, we are seeing you, Hamian. So thanks very much. And oh, there is Hamian. So,
yes.
And folks, Hamian is one who, well, she will tell you. She will tell you. I'll leave it for her to tell. Hamian, so good afternoon and welcome. And tell me your memories of Johnson, St. Louis.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity. I first must begin by saying Johnson would have been saying yes, yes, yes to your point where you were speaking about women in boxing. We are deeply involved. We are passionate. And that referee judge is my sister. That's Kathy Limo. So he would be saying yes, yes. And that clip that you show, it just touched me and I just broke down. I am not only involved in boxing with Johnson, but I worked with him at Fisheries Division.
Right.
I am one who everyone would have seen like his tail. I'm everywhere with him. I'm right there. I'm editing stuff. It is happening for me and I do not know where to begin, but I am just very grateful for the opportunity to express the gratitude that I've had for having met Johnson, first at boxing and then becoming a staff at the Fisheries Division. I would describe him as a package, a nice package of everything good, everything bright and beautiful, calm, peaceful, loving, understanding, unusual. I don't know. I just can't find the words to describe this man that God has placed in our presence to first embrace, that nobody could find nothing bad to say about. He has never gotten angry. There are times when I would get angry for him. Things would happen, and everyone who know us in the boxing fraternity would know. I'm the little firecracker, and I would tell him things like, why? And he would say, okay, it's okay. And I've been there with him, visiting him, chatting with him, and somehow I cannot come to grips with just the fact that he was always okay and peaceful, always there. Up to the last, he was giving me advice. He was telling us, don't give up, hold on, go back. He want this one to be president, he want that one to, and he just died with boxing at heart, you know. I don't know.
Yeah, I know the whole feeling about that because he's one who you get him in a conversation about boxing and he'll be speaking for the entire day, And
Yeah.
as you indicated yourself and your sister and and others who got involved in boxing, and I know how much Johnson himself has encouraged women's involvement in the sport of boxing.
Yeah, he was just all for women, including Karakou,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, we had a contingent in Karakou that was big in the boxing. We had boxers from Karakou, and everything he do, he would never forget us women. The timekeeper, Paula, and always making sure that one of us we're there, we understand everything. And I don't know. It's just everything I've listened that everybody has said, nobody missed anything. It was all Johnson. As Shane said, he's still here. I'm hearing that he's gone, visiting him, know that I cannot speak to him anymore, but he's somewhere around. He's right here listening. I could hear him as if I could still see him. Yeah.
And how would you want us and us in the sports arena, the boxing fraternity, the public in general, to remember the man Johnson St. Louis?
Peaceful, loving, strong-minded, unusual, kind, out of this world, out of this our imagination. He would just think out of the box. He was strong. He was a strong individual, and the passion for boxing, he had it all. That's how I would want us to remember him. He was our hero. He was not a boxer. He was everything else. He was a fighter, but he never went in the ring and had it with anybody. But he was fighting in administration. He would fight with everything else. He fought the illness. So I would want us to remember him as all of this. Gone but never forgotten. He will not be forgotten by us.
Mhm.
He was like our father,
Mhm.
our brother, our friend, our best friend. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Hamian. I want to thank you for sharing your tribute with us.
You're most welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. And God bless your program.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay then, so that was Hamian Elcock, one of those who have been involved in boxing, and as you saw in the recent clip, her sister was the actual referee, and they have been involved. Let's move across the region now. One who has been working along with Johnson for many years, Kathy Harper-Hall from Barbados, and as she was once president of the Caribbean Boxing Association, and Kathy, no doubt, is one who would have worked with Johnson, would have known Johnson, would have been involved directly. I would have been on the phone with Johnson, would have seen Johnson in person, would have known the guy. It's one of those, I believe, outside of Grenada who would have known Johnson more than anyone else. Kathy Harper-Hall. Good afternoon to you, Kathy.
Hi, Michael. I have known Johnson for I can't even tell you how many years, because he's been around boxing for such a very long time. And And in the good old days of the Caribbean Boxing Association from in the 90s, we crossed paths, and he has been there in different capacities. And he has always been very faithful to the sport. I know that he had boxing at heart, that he loved the sport. He loved the sport very much. And even in his days of illness, he was still trying to carry on. And even when it had got to the point where he really should have given up, he given it over, handed it over to someone else. He didn't, because he loved it so much. We have to respect him for the love that he had for the sport, for what he shared with the boxers across, not just in Grenada but across the region. And Johnson was not just a boxing colleague; he was a personal friend of mine. Actually, he always referred to me as Sister Kathy. He never called me anything else but Sister Kathy for all the years that I have known him. And I was kind of a little bit taken aback when I heard that he had passed, although I know he had been ill for quite some time. But it had really taken me shaken me a little bit when I heard that he had passed. But he has run the race, he has done his course, he has made his contribution. And so I think that people whose lives he touched should be grateful that he crossed their paths. And we hope that wherever he is gone, he will find a place of rest, and that all will be well with his soul.
And Kathy, as indicated, your involvement in boxing in the Caribbean has gone way back when. Yeah. And, we have lost, whether they were boxers themselves, former boxers, administrators, but, of recent, and I think the most recent would have been our former boxer Trevor Thwaites, who we lost about 2 or 3 years ago. But as you indicated, Johnson has been one who more or less the epitome of boxing in Grenada in terms of administration. He has been involved in boxing, as indicated, from since the 70s. And you yourself would have crossed paths with Johnson, whether it's at Caribbean tournaments, wherever, OECS tournaments, because there was once when Barbados would have probably had boxers in those tournaments. And how do you think the boxing fraternity should remember the man Johnson St. Louis?
I think we should remember him as one who made a significant contribution to the sport, not only just in Grenada, but across the region, because he has been part of the Caribbean Boxing Association, although he was never on the executive committee, but he was always at our conference, at our annual general meetings, and he was always there to make significant contributions. And so we should always remember him as someone who made his mark on the sport. I have been around Caribbean boxing since Caribbean boxing as such started in 1985, because the first attempt at bringing the Caribbean together in boxing was here in Barbados in 1985, when Austin Seeley decided to have a multi-sport Carifta Games, and boxing was one of the 5 sports chosen. And out of that came the Caribbean Boxing Association, which was formed in Antigua in 1986. And I have been there for all these years. And then I met Johnson in the early 90s, and he has been around since then. He hasn't left. He has played some part in the sport for all those years, whether it was just coming to the tournament as part of a Grenada delegation, or being a part of the Grenada executive, or just being there as it came to the OECS tournaments. As you know, when Red Pereira used to organize these OECS tournaments as part of the OECS sports desk, he was around. And Grenada hosted it on several occasions, and Johnson was usually playing some part in what was going on. So as the former speaker said, although he never entered the ring, neither as a boxer nor as a referee or anything, but boxing was part of his life.
Yeah. Just as how sports is part of Kathy's life.
Oh yes, sports lights up my life.
Yeah, because as for those who don't know, while Kathy is speaking as administrator in the sport of boxing, she is also involved in netball and has been one of the
and track and
founding
field.
and track and field, yeah. And,
Actually, I still run competitively in track and field. So
or the senior games, right?
yes, of
Yeah,
course.
right.
Integral part of senior games.
Right, and as Kathy has been, in fact, a founding member of netball in Barbados in terms of the Netball Association in Barbados.
I am.
So she has been involved in quite a number of sports in terms of their foundation and the ongoing structure in terms of, as we indicated, track and field, netball, and so too is boxing.
I want to thank you, Michael, for affording me this opportunity. I really, really appreciate it because, as I said, when I heard of his passing, and actually I placed it on the AIBA International Boxing Association's Facebook page, and it is amazing the number of people from across the international boxing world who has been expressing condolences. So I'm glad that you have allowed me this opportunity to be able to pay tribute to Johnson. And I express condolences to his immediate family and also to the Grenada boxing family.
Yeah, I want to thank you as well, Kathy, for accepting that, and no doubt we'll be keeping in touch because sometime in the future we need to reconnect with you to talk about sports in the Caribbean. Your involvement in sports in the Caribbean. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay then, right. So, folks, no doubt, Kathy Harper-Hall from Barbados, and Kathy is in her 80s, but when you look at her, you don't think so because she takes care of herself. Kathy is about 81, 82 going on there, and she has given over 60 years of her life to the service of sport, and not just sports in Barbados, but sports in the Caribbean. And hearing it from Kathy in terms of tribute to Johnson is very touching. Kathy is one of those who has been a bastion of sports in the region, and I keep saying in the region because while she is in Barbados, you hear whether it's in Jamaica, whether it's in Trinidad, whether it's in Antigua, if you call the name Kathy Harper-Hall, someone will know who you're speaking about. It's no strange name because her service to Barbados and the Caribbean is all about sports, and no doubt it's fitting for Kathy to be providing that tribute to Johnson because she would have come in, they would have crossed paths in some way or the other through the sport of boxing. So whether it's boxing, whether it's netball, whether it's track and field, Kathy is there, and I want to say thank you, Kathy. We go to the sister Isle of Carriacou, and we welcome a former boxer himself and now a coach, Sebastian Steele, who is enjoying a sunny Hillsborough or somewhere in Carriacou. I'm just saying Hillsborough for short. But thank you very much, Sebastian. I guess as much you chose that background because I'm here in New York, and this is how you try to tease me, no doubt. But thank you very much for joining us. But we are paying tribute to the late Johnson St. Louis, and you yourself as a former boxer and now as a boxing coach and one who is leading the charge over in the Sister Isle. What can you tell us about your association with the late Johnson St. Louis?
Pleasant good afternoon, Michael. It's a pleasure to be on this program, actually, and it's a pleasure to be speaking about my association with Mr. St. Louis and the sport of boxing. Presently, coincidentally, I am in Grenada, so I am speaking to you from the mainland Grenada, representing Carriacou and PT Martinique.
Good to know that. All right.
Yes, well, what I must say indeed, my condolences to the boxing fraternity of Grenada, Caribou and PT Martinique, the Caribbean. We have lost a true friend of the sport of boxing, our sports administrator for a number of years. And it is actually sad to know that Mr. St. Louis has gone because our Heavenly Father has called him home. I would say that Mr. St. Louis was a true friend of the sport of boxing for Grenada. I would have interacted for the first time with Mr. St. Louis in the early 90s when I would have joined the Grenada national team to tour for the OCS championship in St. Vincent. And from there on, myself and Mr. St. Louis would have developed a very good relationship as a boxer from a number of years representing Grenada. You know, Michael, I would have recalled the time when Mr. St. Louis would have ensured, as part of the executive of the Grenada Boxing Association, that we, the boxers of Caribou and PT Martinique, got representation and participated in local tournaments. The association would have ensured that Caribou was represented, and Mr. St. Louis was instrumental in ensuring that back in those days. And so once there was that opening, and once boxers from Caribou on the selection onto the national team, there was always a home for the boxers to be welcome on the national team. I remember coming to Grenada and other boxers coming to Grenada to represent Caribou and to participate in national tournaments. And tribute go way back. I mean, the likes of Mr. Brother Davis Adams, who from Caribou would have participated in national tournament, represent the national team. We have the likes of Joe Adams, who also sent tribute to Johnson, Mr. Johnson St. Louis, on his passing, you know, and to the family of Johnson St. Louis. So we all mourn, Bascom, the passing of Mr. St. Louis, because I believe that he would have made a significant contribution towards the development and the advancement of the sport and boxers of Grenada, Caribou, and PT Martinique. I can quite well remember the time when we traveled to Cuba together, where I represented Grenada at the Cardin tournament in Cuba, and Mr. St. Louis was there along with the team. And other Caribbean islands would have gone to OCS championship. Mr. St. Louis was part of those teams, and he ensured that the sport of boxing in Grenada and the sport of boxing in Caribou thrive and continue to develop as part of the executive body of the Grenada Boxing Association.
And as you indicated, it was Johnson was a big supporter, a big advocate of development of boxing in the sister isle of Caribou. And while you are in Grenada now, you no doubt bringing and sharing the tributes for all of those in Caribou who would have benefited through Johnson's contribution to the sport and the development of the sport in the sister isles. Let me hear from you, though. How do you think we should remember the man Johnson St. Louis?
Bascom, we should definitely, Mr. St. Louis, you know, has made immense amount of contribution most of his life towards ensuring that the development of sports. And we must remember him as a lover of the sport of boxing. You know, it must be noted that he was a member of the Grenada Boxing Association for a number of years. And he must be remembered as someone who dedicates most of his life to the sport of boxing in Grenada and by extension Carriacou and PT Matnick. So on behalf of the Carriacou and PT Matnick Boxing Club, we felt that we are bound to be represented, and I am doing representation to pay tribute to Mr. St. Louis and to pay tribute on his passing. And the sport of boxing has lost a very close and dedicated friend.
All right, thank you very much, Sebastian, and enjoy your time on the mainland. I want to thank you very much for being part of the program and sharing your thoughts, your memories, and your tributes on the late Johnson St. Louis. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Barcom, for the opportunity for this program, and we appreciate, as a member of the boxing family, we appreciate you bringing this coverage. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that's Sebastian Steele, and he given us his take from from Carriacou. Well, he's in Grenada, but representing Carriacou. Let's see if we can make contact now with Steve Ninval, the president of the Guyana Boxing Association, and Steve is live with us. And Steve, thank you for being part of this special tribute to our dear friend Johnson St. Louis. We heard from Kathy Harper-Hall previously, and we also heard from Vincent Roberts and a number of other boxers, local boxers. But tell us, Steve, your tribute, and no doubt representing the boxing fraternity of Guyana, how would you remember Johnson St. Louis?
Well, thank you very much, Michael. Thank you for having me on this program. And first and foremost, I would want to say condolence to the wife and family and relatives of Johnson St. Louis. I would have come into contact with Johnson. I became president of the Guyana Boxing Association in 2009, and I would have first brushed shoulders with him in 2012, I think it was. As the president of the Guyana Boxing Association and as a vice president of the America's Boxing Confederation, we are deeply saddened by his passing. Deeply saddened because of the fact that Johnson was one of our silent, strong soldiers in the Caribbean. He's not a man of many words, or he was not a man of many words, but he was a man of action. Sadly, I cannot say that for many of our other administrators within the region, who I think are much more talk and less action. Johnson was that person. When the job is to be done, he would roll up his sleeves and he will get it done. I will tell you something. In 2015, we would have held the first of a resuscitated Caribbean championship. And we had reached out to Johnson in order to have a team of Grenadian fighters here. He was the first person to acknowledge, the first person to register, and I think Grenada was the first team to land in Guyana for that tournament. With our Caribbean Schoolboys and Juniors tournament, Johnson was the first person that would have reached out to us to participate. They would have had some problems after that to participate, but I'm trying to show you the underlying character of this person. And it is not because that he has died, and you know there's the saying of do not say ill, do not speak ill of the dead, but this is because of the person he was. And if you go across the Caribbean, I think if we want to be honest with ourselves, we will say that this is someone that we will deeply miss. This is not a friend of mine. Johnson was a brother of mine. And I am saying this because we shared the same ideas. We saw eye to eye on issues as it relates to moving our region from one stage to another. And when we called for action, he was always there. I don't know if he has left very large shoes for persons to fill. I do hope that whoever takes over the reins in Grenada, we will also be able to work with the level of camaraderie and with the level of assistance and support. The sport in the Caribbean and in AMBC has lost a true stalwart. He cannot be replaced. And again, my heart goes out to his wife, his relatives, and to Grenada because he's a true son of the soil and he has represented you with flying colors. I would have the last time we would have met was in Panama in 2020 last year, January. I would think yes, we met in Panama, and there was so much that he wanted to do to make sure that he can revive the sport and push the sport in Grenada. As a matter of fact, for the first time in the history of boxing in Grenada, there was a fighter who represented that country at the World Championship. And that was due to the push and the shoving and the all-round undertaking of Johnson St. Louis. So, many people did not know how hard he worked in the backgrounds. As I said, he was not someone who was the flamboyant type and who would want the media coverage and so forth, but he was day in, night out working. I think to his last days, he was working for boxing. And I really honored that I had chance to meet and be friends and share the level of camaraderie with such a great man. And Grenada, the Caribbean, and AMBC has lost a true stalwart.
Yes, I want to thank you, Steve, for that glowing tribute to Johnson. And as you indicated, not just representing Guyana, but representing ANB as well. And I thank you very much for that. Thank you very much. Yeah, okay. So there you heard it from Steve Linval, the president of the Guyana Boxing Association. Very eloquent indeed was Steve, and bringing in his thoughts. We go now to a former president of the Grenada Boxing Association. Well, now it's the Boxing Association of Grenada, and one who, for some reason, I would say, would have known Johnson for quite a while. His brother spoke. Oops, I think we just lost him, but that probably wasn't just a teaser, but we just had Mr. Emmanuel Roberts on there, but I think some of the folks are I think he's back with us now. So let's see if we can get him now. Let's say good afternoon to Mr. Emmanuel Roberts, a former president himself of the Grenada Boxing Association, now the Boxing Association of Grenada, and one who I believe had known Johnson for quite a while. Let's leave it to Emmanuel. That will no doubt, and Emmanuel would have probably heard Kathy previously and Steve as well. He may have missed his brother who started off the program. That's Vincent Roberts. But Emmanuel, first of all, your association with Johnson, I know it would have gone, for many years, probably even prior to involvement in boxing. Share with us your thoughts, your memories, and your tributes with Johnson.
Good afternoon, Michael, and good afternoon to everyone listening, looking on. It was in 1980 I met Johnson for the first time. I went to the airport, Pearl's Airport, to drop off one of my brothers, and on my way down, Johnson and his brother John, they asked for a ride. So I stopped somewhere in Muir Junction, picked them up, and that time John was preparing to go to study in Cuba, and they were speaking Spanish. That time I just started working at the fishing school, and we had the Cubans down here, and we needed an interpreter. So I asked Johnson if he was interested, and from then on, well, we went to the Ministry of Fisheries. He sent in an application, and that's where we started. He started as an interpreter for the Cubans at the fishing school, and it was through my brother Vincent who invited me to volunteer and assist with the boxing. And in 1981, I asked Johnson, I said, well, I invited him, let's volunteer with the boxing. And since 1981, he started in boxing, giving, well, 40 years volunteering. We worked in the fishing school. Johnson not only interpreted at the fishing school, but during the time, the agro industries, where they made the tamarind juices, mayonnaise, and so on, Johnson would go on there and translate for the Cubans who were working there with Miss Horsford and the other people who work in the agro industries. We also did volunteer work on the building of the airport. On weekends when we had free time, we would go down to the airport and walk along with the Cubans who were building the airport. So it's not only in sports Johnson was involved, but other areas. If I could just mention something about the fisheries. After, well, the fishing school closed down in 1983, and Johnson went on to the Ministry of Fisheries. But he studied number of places: Japan, South Korea, Peru, just to name a few. And Johnson had a knack for languages. The late John Diagwe used to call him lengua. Yes, lengua, which has some meaning to languages.
Yeah.
When the Japanese came to Grenada to help with establishing the fish markets,
Yeah.
Johnson was able to speak with them in Japanese. So he was an all-rounder, volunteering in sports, fisheries, languages. Johnson was, well, like an ambassador for Grenada. And these are some of the things that he did, if you want to call him an unsung hero, because listening to the Minister of Sports, she said she never knew Johnson did all that. So he remained in the background, he worked hard, and Johnson was like a brother to me. Known him for over 40 years. Very close. He was close to our family, the Roberts family. And there's nothing you can ask Johnson to do for you and he won't. He was friendly, he was caring, he was kind, considerate, committed to whatever he did, and very positive, very, very positive, and hardworking.
Yeah, well, hearing the tributes, and as you just disclosed, Johnson had some of those inner traits, as you will say, and Ninfeld was saying he was not the type that was, Steve Ninfeld I was referring to, that, will boast about things. But hearing from you now, it seems that Johnson was a jack of all trades, and is things that probably folks probably didn't know about, probably just knew that he was probably a fisheries officer or, involved in the Boxing Association, but they didn't know that, he was the type that had a knack for languages. And, Johnson once told me that if a man is speaking Portuguese or he's speaking Italian, he surely can understand what they're saying, because, yes, Spanish was his second language, but he just had a knack for languages, understanding French, the Japanese, all these things.
I think he taught French for a short while in SAS before he started working in fisheries.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, right. And he was also, I think, Mr. Robbie, you should know that one of his trademark, and just on the jovial side about it, was the yes. I think that was Johnson, because he was this sort of person where he's always willing to do something. So the yes was that, yes, I will do it,
Definitely, Johnson, he found time to do what he liked. And, well, you could ask Mr. Grant. Mr. Grant is another person that Johnson found time to help out Mr. Grant in all different areas. I remember whenever we had tournaments, Johnson would find time to go up to Guelph to drop off boxers, Alex James and his brother, his cousin. Then in St. David's again. So he was extraordinary volunteer. I don't know if he could find some people who volunteer in sports for over 40 years, but he was one of them that did that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, as someone is actually saying here, so true, always his favorite words, yes, Calvin Grant. And Yulin, who is over in Long Island, is expressing condolences to Mr. Johnson's family and friends. And we know Rikisha St. Louis, who is involved in the media, saying sleep well, cuz. So the tributes and condolences coming from all around. Finally, Mr. Roberts, how would you think the boxing fraternity should remember the man Johnson St. Louis, the former president of the Boxing Association of Grenada?
Well, the contribution that Johnson made to boxing is extraordinary. And I don't know if they could call one of the local tournaments in his name. I would like to see something like that happen.
Oh, I think we just lost Mr. Robbie for a moment there. Well, hopefully we get him back. Yes, I think he is. Yeah, he is back. As you were saying, Mr. Robbie, in terms of memory of Johnson.
Yeah, if whenever the new executive is formed, whenever they have a local tournament, if they could have it called in his name, so that he could be remembered for the outstanding work that he did for boxing in Grenada and the Caribbean.
Okay, then. Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel Roberts, former president of the Grenada Boxing Association, now the Boxing Association of Grenada. expressing his tribute to his late and dear friend, Johnson St. Louis, who passed away on Monday of this week. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you, Michael, and keep up the good work you're doing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So we heard it there from Emmanuel Roberts. Well, we have the General Secretary of the Grenada Olympic Committee, Vida Bruno Victor, sent in a short tribute that she wants to, and I quote, "I want to express that the late president was a hard-working and devoted administrator to the sport of boxing, and all he did was for the love of the sport. I express my best wishes to his family and the boxing fraternity, and may God grant him eternal peace," unquote. The General Secretary of the Grenada Olympic Committee, Vida Bruno Victor, sending tribute to the late Johnson St. Louis and his family. So we, while we await the former president, well, he was on a while ago. Somehow they having a little, some folks, it appears to be some folks who are having some problems. Not all, but just some having some problems. Early on we had the Boxomania, something that Johnson was very much involved in, and provided a lot of support for the boxing fraternity in Grenada, and he was one who pushed a lot of that. And we did earlier on just some highlights, but I think with the remaining time there, if you allow us, we will just in tribute to the late Johnson St. Louis, and probably one of his last and major boxing tournament, the Boxomania at the Trade Center. We want to pay tribute to Johnson St. Louis. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I was so taken aback by what was going on there. So once again, I want to thank you for being part of our program. The Cathy Harper-Hall in Barbados, Steve Ninval in Guyana, the Johnson, paying tribute to the late Johnson St. Louis, who passed away on Monday. Vincent Roberts, Emmanuel Roberts, thank you very much. Stephen Benjamin, Davis Adams, Shane Joseph, Sebastian Steele, Hermione Elcock, all those who were sharing their tributes, their memories, their thoughts on the late Johnson St. Louis, who passed away earlier this week, Monday to be exact. Thank you very much for being part of this special program. And as indicated, there hasn't been any final arrangements regarding funeral arrangements as yet, but as we know, with the COVID and all the regulations, and protocols with COVID, sometimes these things are a bit private. So thank you for being part and sharing with the boxing fraternity your insights, your memories, and some of them very candid memories of the late Johnson St. Louis. No doubt he will be remembered. He has given quite a bit to the sport of boxing, and as indicated in that last piece I had there, it was all in tribute to Johnson. It was one of his last major local tournaments, Boxomania, and Johnson was actually sitting on the far right corner of the ring. Okay. And whenever there's boxing locally, Johnson always makes himself available, even though he was never a boxer himself, although he was a past official, referee, judge, scorer, and then of recent was an administrator. But he always made comfort of being around ringside and to provide support. One of the persons, no doubt, that would fondly remember Johnson and all the assistance Johnson would have given was Norbert Grant, and Norbert Grant, though in his 90s, still around boxing, still around boxing. And Johnson was one who would always get Norbert to and fro, boxing, whether it's training or whether it's, tournaments. Johnson will be, taking him to and fro. So thank you very much once again. And I want to express on behalf of our program condolences to the family of Johnson St. Louis and also to the boxing fraternity. I want to thank you very much for being part of our program. Don't forget to join us on Thursday for another of our Talk Sports program. That's on Thursday. The time will be 6:30 in the evening. That's Eastern time, which is 7:30 Eastern Caribbean time. And then on Saturday, our Saturday sports special from 1 o'clock Eastern time, 2 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time. And just a program note in terms of time, next Sunday, there will be a change in time in terms of daylight saving time. So there will be some adjustments. I will let you know that's following next Saturday's program in terms of the adjustment in time of the program. Thank you very much for being part of the program. Thank you, Cathy. Thank you, Steve. It's been a pleasure to be hearing from you on our program and expressing tribute to Johnson. It's really brought in a bit of, brought in something special, I would say, because no doubt Johnson did not only provide that service to boxing in Grenada, but also beyond the shores of Grenada. Thank you very much, folks, for being part of our program, and do forget to join us on Thursday for another of our program, Talk Sports.